Welcome to Rockets Wireside Chat, presented by AT&T. In this episode, we talk to Rockets guard Austin Rivers, and it starts right now. Austin, how you doing, man? Good to see you, and hope you and the family are safe and healthy.
Yeah, man, doing good. Just taking it day by day. Bored, ready to get back to work. Enjoying family time, but definitely itching to just kind of get back to normalcy. So just kind of waiting.
I don't know where home is for you, but are you in Houston or are you home?
I'm in Orlando. This
Okay.
is, I guess if I had to choose a place where I'd call home, it'd be the place where I kind of come from. So, my mom's here, my son's here. My home is wherever my son's at. So,
okay. What have you been up to outside of family duty? I mean, basketball wise.
Really just hanging out and just been working out. Trying to stay in shape. Working out about 4 to 5 days a week. Mostly weights and conditioning, and then I have an outside basketball court here. Just Florida weather conditions are all over the place, so some days I get to shoot free throws and play a little bit with my friends one-on-one, and then some days I don't get to do much at all. So you just but I have a ball and I have a hoop, and that's more than most players right now, so I can't complain.
Definitely can't go out in those the mid to late afternoon in Florida. You always get those showers, right?
Get the showers, or it's like 1 p.m. I got to go out there and hoop, and it's like 100 degrees, and you're dying. But that's that. You got to take what you can get.
Have you been in touch much, if at all, with your teammates and the coaches and so forth?
Yeah, just through like video team meetings and stuff like that, and I've talked to PJ a little bit and Russ a little bit. They're all doing good. Everybody else is just in the same boat. Ben's back in SAC, and a lot of guys are still in Houston. Some guys are out west. Jeff's down in Miami. So just kind of, I think Cubs back in Tennessee. So everybody's kind of back where they call home. Just everybody's going through the same stuff. It's amazing. Even if you don't play basketball, everybody's going through the same stuff, no matter what. So we're all in the same boat right now.
You mentioned you're fortunate you have a goal and you can get some shots up when it's not raining, but that's not the case for everybody. Have you had a chance to talk to maybe not just necessarily your teammates, but some other friends around the league
I've talked to a lot of my other teammates.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of my other teammates and then players outside of my team. And a lot of guys haven't touched the ball since the season's ended.
Wow. Okay.
They've tried to go to like parks, but those are closed, or they've taken the baskets, the nets away. Like it's very difficult. It's very difficult right now. I've been so close like 3 or 4 different times of getting a gym, and then something would fall through because, just a liability reasons and people not wanting to take any risk, whether it's colleges or high schools. So I couldn't even get into my own high school.
Oh, wow.
Which I've donated whatever, it's pretty much my high school. I couldn't even get into that. It was a funny story. Russell can't even get into the UCLA practice facility, and it's called the Russell Westbrook practice facility. So I knew if he can't get into the gym, then I can't complain too much.
So in terms of your workouts, it's my understanding that Keith and Jason and Javar and Willie and all those guys have been in contact with you guys. Have they been giving you any sort of are you going through a designated workout plan that they've given you, or is this something that you kind of do on your own?
Yeah, they've been sending us like videos every other day of stuff to do during the week. Activation, muscle strengthening. They started to ramp it up a little bit as of recently, so guys can take those videos and incorporate it into their own workouts that they have. I always tell everybody, people are always asking, are they sending you stuff? Growing up, none of us had trainers. Even a guy like me who comes from my dad and family I never had a trainer growing up. I didn't have a personal trainer. The first time I worked out with a trainer was I was in the NBA. So we got there somehow, right? What I mean? Like, guys have to know how to do their own work. I think people lose touch with that. When you get to the league, everybody has to do these personal training workouts, and the best trainer, like, we got this far for a reason, and that's due to you loving the sport and pushing yourself and figuring out ways to get better. It's not hard to know how to get better, man. Now, obviously, they help us tremendously, but you have to take this time seriously. Obviously, I think people get lazy, or players can get lazy, because there's no due date in sight. There's no end goal, because we don't even know if the season's going to come back. So people are like, am I working for anything, or should I be resting my body, or whatever the case may be? But it seems like now there is a realistic possibility that the season might be able to somehow come about. And I think guys are starting to ramp it up more.
Have you given, with that said, have you given it much thought to what that will be like if and when it does restart? Because as you said, everybody's in the same boat.
Right. I mean, I've given it thought, but it's like, I'm not gonna be able to imagine it. I've never played in a game without fans. You know, I've never there's no more home court advantage anymore. There's a lot of things are going to change. I mean, even little things. Free throw percentages are going to go up. Shooting percentages are going to go up. You know, there's no more noise and distractions. I mean, it's basically like a scrimmage. It's like, I always just say, there's a lot of guys who can play in practice, a lot of good practice players, but when the lights are on, change their whole, you know, it's just different. The pressure's on, da-da-da-da-da. Well, now, if there's no there's no fan base, no hoopla, no all that. I mean, it's just going to be a different game. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a different game in general. Obviously, the game's going to be televised, which changes a lot still. But still, like, it's going to be so different and weird. I don't like to say cool, because the circumstances that we're going through right now are tragic for many people. But it will be interesting that if, you know, the season does come back, we will be involved in something that's never been done before, and something that'll be looked back on 10, 20 years from now, saying, you remember we played like this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be interesting.
I think what we've all learned during this process is that obviously sports are big business, and it's important to a lot of people. And during normal times, it's like, well, this is important, but it's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. And that still holds true without a doubt. But I think what we have learned during the absence of sports is they mean a lot to the psyche of people in this country and across the globe. And it is kind of a big deal.
100%. I mean, what you realize is how much time and focus it like the attention that we bring. And I think we are something that lets people get away from stuff that they have to deal with every day. You know, people have, you know, tough days, bad days, good days, but you can get lost in watching the game for an hour or two. You could take your kid to a game. The jobs that sports supply, whether it's the arena, all the businesses around it. Sports mean a tremendous. I mean, it's like music. You know what I mean? Like people listen to music to get away, or they could take. You know, you can listen to a song and it could take you back to a moment where you were when you first heard that song. You know what I mean? And sports does that in different ways. You know what I mean? So I think us not having sports, people are now like online, Instagram, Twitter, like, what the hell are we supposed to watch? You know what I mean? Like, it's just. You know, it's not only entertainment, but it's something to just kind of dive yourself into and get away from your actual life for a second. That's what we provide, all of us, you, me, everybody.
So in your opinion, if the season does happen to restart, how long do you think it'll take for you guys, for players in general, to get geared back up to get back to playing games again?
It's not equivalent to having a whole summer because usually when you go to summer break, your team comes back, it's a new team. I mean, I've only been in Houston for 2 years, but I've been in the league for 7. I never came back with the same team as I did the year before. There's always trades, pickups, draft picks, all this. So that will make it easier for every team, because when we come back, you're going to be back with the same group. So it makes it much easier to just kind of just get back in the swing of things. With that being said, this time off is nothing small. So it's going to be hard. I mean, there's no more, you know, I don't want to say rhythm, but, you know, there were teams that were in a groove, the Lakers, the Bucks. There are these teams that had this momentum. Momentum does not matter anymore. There's no more momentum. The team that's going to win, if this does come back, is going to be the team that had the most collective guys taking this time off seriously. That's going to be the team that's going to win because I don't know how many games they would even give us in a regular season. I don't know if we're going to go straight to the playoffs. They're saying so many different things. I don't know. All I do know is it's not going to be a lot. Even if they do give us a little bit of the regular season, it'd be like 5-something games at max. I mean, I don't even know. 6-7 games at max. It won't be a lot. It'll be something within a couple of weeks. It'll be done. So you only have that time to sharpen your tools, get your team chemistry, and then you're right into the playoffs. And then again, we factor in the no crowd and this and this and this. It's just going to be different. And people have been saying, oh, whoever wins, it's going to have a blip next to it. I personally believe it's the complete opposite. Whoever wins, this is harder. this is so much harder. I mean, if we would have finished the season going to the playoffs, the best team wins, and that's how it's been for the history of the game. Whoever wins this year really had to go get it and earn it, and had guys who took time off, took it seriously, and still stayed in shape, and then was able to get back in chemistry and really had true chemistry and et cetera, so many things. So I think this is going to be, in my eyes, I think whoever wins this, it's going to be the hardest championship ever won. I know people might not agree with it, but I personally do.
You guys made a lot of changes. The team made a lot of changes in and around the trade deadline. Added Jeff Green, Damari Carroll, Robert Covington. You win that first game when you went full blown small ball against the Lakers. Had that huge win at home against Boston. You headed into the All-Star break, came back out of it, won. Had a 5-game winning streak, which wrapped up with that thrilling overtime win in Boston, and then you had lost 4 in a row before beating Minnesota before everything shut down. In terms of your thoughts on where the team was, were you comfortable with where things left off with this group? Again, you had lost 4 or 5 going into the shutdown.
Yeah, no, we weren't in a good place as a team. I could tell you that. Now, it wasn't something that wasn't like detrimental to us where we think, oh, this isn't going to work. We knew what we had was going to work. We still believed our small ball. We believed in what Mike and Daryl have put in place. But I think what we realized is it's not perfect, and nothing's perfect. We win the first game versus the Lakers. Everybody's on a high. And then after that, that gives you momentum. We start beating everybody, and then we beat Boston. Then we go into Boston and beat them. So everybody's like, man, no one can guard us. We're too small. We score. We're fast. We spread the floor. And then you play a team. The Knicks game was more so just us, just attention to detail, coming in the game, thinking the game was going to be easy. That had nothing to do with anything. That was just us not being professional and losing. You know what I mean? It just happens sometimes. A couple other teams. So close in a way that no team has guarded us yet. And teams took note. They played this boxes and elbows strategy, kind of like a zone almost. It's like 2 guys at each wing, and then 2 guys down low at each box, and then the one guy goes guard James. Because they know nobody's cutting to the basket. They know that there's no cutting. There's no big men down there. So they know everybody's around the perimeter. So everybody can just zone up and guard the perimeter and just have one guy kind of chase James around. And it was definitely something we were trying to adjust to. And I think those 4 to 5 games was us learning that even though the small ball is going to be effective and we still believe it can win us a championship, it was something that we were learning that teams are going to throw different things at us, and it's not perfect. Like, we're going to have to figure this out. It's not we didn't just figure out the cheat code to winning a championship. You know what I mean? And there's still weaknesses to everything. So, we still believe in it, but at the time we were figuring it out. So that's something I think when this season resumes, we're going to see the same thing again. And we're going to have to continue to work through it, which we will, because we have 2 good players, and Mike and the guys that we have are in our eyes, we believe are great. So we'll figure it out.
Last week, the Rockets organization and the Fertitta family donated groceries from Kroger to 50 families supported by Casa de Esperanza Houston. The Rockets are committed to helping the efforts of Casa to serve the needs of outreach and aftercare families. And AT&T recently launched a $10 million distance learning and family connections fund created to support distance learning and social development programs. As part of this program, AT&T has contributed $250,000 to help expand the NBA Math Hoops community program that allows students to learn fundamental math skills through the game of basketball. And now, back to the interview. Your dad's been a super successful coach. Have you ever given that any thought? You kind of went through a nice little breakdown of where the team was, what teams were doing against you, what you need to do to combat that. Have you given coaching any thought? I know you have still multiple years left in your playing career, so it's still a little premature to get to that step. But again, you have your dad was a player. Your dad's now a coach. You're a player. Have you thought about perhaps maybe when your career is over, moving?
Yeah, I have. Coaching is something that, I'll be honest, prior to the past couple of years, never interested me. I never thought I had that in me. I've always seen me in the business side of things. I've always seen me being either a player agent or being a GM or president. I've always wanted to be in the front office of things. I love the business side of basketball. I know it well. Just I guess with the pedigree and where just me learning and knowing the game my whole life, being around it, I just thought it's something I think I could really do well. And that still stands. I will say over the past couple of years, coaching has continued to grow. It's something that I didn't see myself possibly doing. but now it has started to become something where it's like a little itch now that like I'm starting to get to where I feel like, 10 years down the road, 7, 8 years, however many years I have left of this, 6, 7 years, God willing, 8, whatever. That is something I would like to get into possibly. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know.
And
I
again,
don't
I
know
know
if I have it like.
very premature. I mean, you're not even.
Yeah. No. But it's a good question. And these are things that you should think about. I think about it all the time. And that's why, like this summer, obviously it's changed, but this summer I was going to go to the GM camp they held in Vegas, just teaching players at the business side of basketball. I want to go to that. I want to learn more. I don't want there to be any confusion. Like when I retire, I want it to be seamless. I want to go right into something that I've already working. So there's no adjustment. And obviously there's going to be an adjustment, flying and not being doing all these things I used to do, but my mind's still busy and running. I'm not going to be one of those guys that retires and you're like, what now? It just won't happen. I won't let it happen. So
what are your thoughts about the new G League trend with some of these younger guys coming straight out of high school, and instead of you played at Duke, so you played at one of the biggest programs in the country. I have my opinions on college basketball and so on and so forth, but what are your opinions about perhaps maybe that being, I don't know if circumvent is the right word, but it seems like it might be a little bit of a new trend, at least for the elite high school athletes?
It's definitely going to be a new trend, I think, depending on how good or how well it goes for Jalen Green. I think if these guys go into the G League are able to be solid, play decently well, accepted, and then go high in the draft, top 2 or 3 pick, players can be like, why wouldn't I do that? Because then you go to the G League, they can get paid other things. Shoe contracts can already have, it's just going to open up doors. I think NCAA basketball as a whole has been exposed over the past couple years, just in terms of how much money these colleges and people running it are making, the NCAA, and how these players are being treated just in general. Because everybody talks about, we're fine. I'm fine. The guys who are the 0.01%ers who are only going to college for 1 year, it makes no difference. But you got to understand that 99.9% of college sports go to college for 4 years, and then they graduate and they're like, what now? They've given their bodies, they've given everything. They haven't made a dollar. A lot of them, leave and don't have an idea of what to do. And it's tough. So I think some players are now going to go that route where they can go to the G League right away and figure out a way to fast track their way of making money earlier for their family. You saw a couple guys go overseas. That's just way more of a move. That's a long way to go, fly across the world. That's just different. But yeah, this is interesting, man. I've never thought I'd see something like this.
Prior to the shutdown, so you had a thumb injury. You were kind of struggling a little bit individually going into that, but coming out of that, you were on fire. In terms of your rhythm being disrupted, again, everybody is in the same boat. But
right.
From a personal level, that has to be a little bit of a bummer because you were playing great.
Yeah, that's the best I've shot the ball in my career. Shooting the ball wise, just felt like, it was an adjustment, man. I'm a guard who likes the ball in his hands. I'm not a ball dominant guy, but obviously I'm a guard who can dribble and attack. And you're playing with the 2 most ball dominant players in the history of the game, on the same team. So it's an adjustment, and you have to figure out ways to be successful around them. You have to figure out ways to. So, it's like this, because like one game you're like, I figured it out. And the next game, the ball doesn't come to you as much. So you have to figure out ways of how each night can I be, regardless of how many shots I get, regardless of how many this or that I get, how can I be effective every night? And it's not an easy answer. But what I figured out is my energy, my effort on defense is something I can control every night. I try to let that to get me going. And then on offense, I had to improve my shooting. If I'm going to be playing with Russell and James, that means the ball's not going to be in my hands as much. You're going to be more of a spot-up guy sometimes. That's not something that I've ever been. But if that's what the situation is here, that's what I have to do. I started shooting more shots before practice, after practice than I ever have in my entire life, to the point where, I was wearing my shoulder out shooting so much. And it translated into the game when I was catching shooting and everything. It just started everything was improving. So, that's what I'm taking with me. Again, everybody's rhythm is disrupted at this point. Mm-hmm. But when we get back, I'm going to carry on the same things that I was doing that was working. And that's just repetition and watching film where James likes to pass, where Russ likes to pass. I try to find myself in spots, studying the game and stuff like that really started to help me doing those little things that I've really never done. You just go out there and play and work on the things that you need to work on. But the last couple weeks prior to the coronavirus pandemic, I really started doing things differently, and that's what I'm going to take with me.
Well, hopefully you can pick up right where you left off. So
no doubt.
Can the league in. I've been captain optimism this entire time, and I remain optimistic that at some point this season will resume. So with that said, we look forward to seeing you and the guys back on the floor sooner rather than later. All the best to you and your family, and I do appreciate the time.
I know. Thank you for having me, man. Stay safe.
All right, you do as well. Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, man.
That's it. All done. Episode over. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe now to get all things Rockets delivered right to you, and we'll chat with you next time.